Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right. A little segment of my Office Hours live stream that you can catch on Thursdays at, I'm going to say this right, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That's right. Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. We'd love to see you come down and join this chat right here. Say hello, chat. They're going to lie to you and say this is pre-recorded because that's how they do these things. I would love to see you come down and join us live for these. Ask questions, talk about lore, talk about the latest updates, talk about leaks, and all of the wonderful information that we've been getting recently. Would love to see you come down and join us. And if you are watching this on YouTube after the fact, please make sure you comment down below your thoughts on anything I do. And as always, remember to like the videos, subscribe for more content like this, and hit the bell icon. With that all being said, this is the August 2023 monthly report for Star Citizen. Before we get into the whole thing, just as a reminder, this is not a summary. At the end, I do kind of a quick summary, but this is a complete read-through of the monthly report. There's nothing wrong with summaries, but I feel like if you really want to follow the content that CIG puts out, which they put out volumes of information all the time, it's important to listen or read through the entire thing. And I would highly suggest that you read it yourself if you have a chance to. I know that's not always the case, so people listen to this as kind of like an audiobook format. But I will be interspacing with my own thoughts about what's going on. And again, this is just the Star Citizen one. With that all being said, let's get into it. All right. As we close in on Alpha 320's live release, many teams are finalizing their work for patch's various new features. Beyond the patch, significant progress is being made on content coming later in the year, so read for the latest. AI features. Last month, AI reviewed perception to fixed issues where NPCs couldn't correctly recognize that a target had died or that they'd seen a situation before. These issues led to various bugs, including the AI constantly calling for med pens or remaining in combat after it had finished. For those who don't know, this is almost likely the new AI system, which is being developed for Squadron 42 first and then into Star Citizen. It's been mentioned a couple times by Chris Roberts himself that unless server meshing is in, there is no way they're getting this new AI system into Star Citizen. So this is all likely Squadron 42 stuff, where the AI is healing itself, it's calling for backup, there's a whole slew of things that the new AI system can do, which we don't see in Star Citizen yet. So this is a lot of Squadron 42 content. They also revisited cover usage, polishing various functionality and animations to ensure that the feature works across the range of situations and environments. Changes and fixes were also made to the tactical point system, which is used to drive where AI moves. This will help identify what needs to be adjusted when reviewing combat in new locations. Balancing was done for AI ammunition usage while maintaining reload and ammo finding functionality to provide realistic and emergent behaviors and gameplay situations. The team continued to review, revisit, and polish combat, including low and high cover reload animations for different weapons and the female animations converted from male assets. They also began developing animations for Marine Squad hand signals to sell group movement and combat. That's almost certain Squadron 42, though I'm sure it'll be ported over to Star Citizen in some capacity. So. All right. AI Tech. Last month, AI Tech added undo and redo functionality to the Apollo subsumption tool. They also began improving subsumption data validation for better presentation and more explicit validation errors. This will allow the designers to iterate faster when creating or adjusting missions and behaviors. On the Boyd's feature, this is the rats, birds, fish. This is kind of like the not really, but really AI-driven animals, which are more horde-based, I guess you could say, more diverse, more like there's a lot of them around. On the Boyd's feature mentioned last month's report, AI tech continued implementing base functionality to allow agents, rats, birds, etc., to adopt their states, such as wandering, idling, or fleeing, and transition between them. They're currently looking for a low-cost solution to keep agents on terrain while moving. Basically, these are low-poly versions of animals. They're not going to want to use a lot of data. But they still want to add them to the background because they kind of add that little spice, that flavor. You know, birds flying above you, rats scurrying around, fish swimming in rivers and such. So, but it's not designed to be super in depth. You're not going for Bass Fish Pro Star Citizen. For NPC audio perception, the team implemented new functionality for how audio stimuli is propagated. This involves using the room system and how rooms are connected to determine whether an audio event should be heard. They also continue to improve navigation links. Firstly, how links connect navigation triangles from different zones, which wasn't working as intended. Secondly, they fixed how animations play when they begin and finish in different zones. For example, when NPCs jump to ground from a hovering ship. Finally, investigation began into performance issues relating to the new navigation system and Pathfinder. I am really looking forward to the AI system in Star Citizen because the new AI system, because the more they talk about it, the more it sounds insane. Very cinematic, very dynamic too. Animation. In August, the animators worked through a number of behavioral lines for background ambience and flight. They also supported tech animation on creature skeletons that will eventually be used in the PU. This isn't new. They've been working on a lot of creature skeletons and creatures in general beyond Boyd's. It's been mentioned multiple times in multiple monthly reports, but we just haven't seen them, other than just kind of in the background. That might be something we see at CitizenCon, though. Just because there's been a lot of mention of it over the last year, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a panel on just the creatures they've come up with. Especially since, I believe a couple of years ago, they hired some of the artists who worked on the original Mass Effect games to help them kind of craft out more animation or more creatures and such. Art characters. Last month, character art progressed with content for various upcoming events and assets for the Headhunters gang, which is a gang that's for Pyro. Alongside this, the concept artists explored additional ideas for the Headhunters and worked on a medical outfit and handoff sheet for a new flight suit. Okay. Art ships. Last month, Ship Art completed their work on the Tumbril Storm. Though they're currently focusing on ongoing issues with the treads and how they appear, 2 new variants of an existing vehicle were completed too. An all-new ship progressed through Whitebox, revealing various areas that require updating from the concept, including an increase into the interior space. Now, this is something that bears explaining. When they say an all-new ship progressed through Whitebox, it's a brand new ship. It's not some secret ship that's already been sold or been mentioned in the past. It's a brand new ship. If it's something they've mentioned or they've sold, they will tell you what it is. So this is a brand new ship that is going through Whitebox. That probably means it's not going to be coming out anytime soon. Unless it's a very small ship, I would take several months to go from Whitebox to Graybox and release. My guess would be minimum 3, probably more than that. So if it's going through Whitebox and art, or in August, we're probably it might be a 3.1 ship. I would say 3.1. 3.21 ship, or like a much later than that, so. The Aopoa Santok Yai is almost Lot Zero complete. Final updates are underway, including polishing the pilot compartment. The damage pass is also in progress, while the rest of the Lot Zero tasks are closed out. Once complete, the team will move on to the paints. So Lot Zero is the step between LODs, like it's kind of like a gray box, and the step between gray box and final art. So like, it's functional, it works. They're trying to make it look good and make sure everything's right. It's a step they added in the process, and it's caused them to not have to do as much work. So the Santok Yai might end up at CitizenCon, probably more like a 3.21 ship if it does, but I wouldn't be surprised if they hold it off a little bit and kind of slow boat it to the Alien Week of next year. So, and lastly, Q-Pan's going to love this one. The Origin X1 is currently awaiting a white box review. Although significant changes to the item locations have already been made to maximize space, modeling of the gray box geometry began too. So it sounds like the Xbox One, the X1 is going to be going over some significant changes from its original design. Probably still looks the same kind of lines, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's brand new. All right. Community. August saw the return of the Ship Showdown, an annual month-long event where the community champions their favorite vehicles by sharing original creations on the Community Hub and social media. The community team hosted 2 contests in support of the event, rewarding the top 10 submissions from the Community Hub and the top 3 most creative videos on the official TikTok channel. After daily head-to-head battles between the top 16 ships, the Drake Corsair was crowned the ultimate champion of the Ship Showdown. 2 of the top 3 ships were Drake, by the way. Drake supremacy. Community also supported the Free Flight event, posted updates on the new player guide, and curated media on the Welcome Hub. The only downside of the Ship Showdown this year is that y'all voted for the Redeemer, which is unredeemable. No. Early August saw the conclusion of the Arlington Gang screenshot contest, where players submitted screenshots following the launch of the Mission Spotlight series. Very cool. The community team then supported Toby's 22nd anniversary alongside numerous community-driven events, including the Intergalactic Industry and Trade Fair and the Atmo Esports Flight or Fight tournament, which will conclude at live at CitizenCon 2953. With CitizenCon 2953 approaching, much of August was also spent ramping up preparations, with a focus on finalizing the details of the various presentations, venue layout design, cosplay contests, community booths, and much more. It's been 4 long years since we've had a physical CitizenCon, so whether you're joining us in Los Angeles or watching from home, we can't wait to celebrate our shared universe with you on August 21st and 22nd. Keep your eyes peeled as we're finalizing some details, and we'll share more information with you very soon. Community team. I'd love to see what's planned for the whole thing, so. The team continued to support dozens of evergreen publishers, such as this monthly report, the most postmortem, etc., alongside planning for a variety of future in and out of game engagements to come. Lastly, the team attended Gamescom and a trio of Bar Citizens events in Cologne, Germany. The turnout was unbelievable, eclipsing our Gamescom events in the past. We are so happy to meet so many of you, veteran backers and fresh pilots alike. We hope to see you all again soon. The one thing I will say, based off of my own performance, hi, you folks who are watching me, who've only been watching me for a couple of weeks or a couple of months now, is that there is a large amount of people who've pledged and got into Star Citizen in the last couple of years. It's insane how much higher the player base is now than it used to be. This is the new edition, which is very interesting. Economy. The new economy team planned their upcoming goals, including rebalancing cargo and related experience. They also began building a tool to investigate the current state of cargo, which could be expanded into other areas of the in-game economy. Now, I don't know what's going on, but this sounds like CIG is finally getting the economy up and running, which is a good thing. And it sounds like there's things like rebalancing cargo. This is the first time we've had an economy team post on a monthly report, which I feel like is a big one. Even though it's only a couple of sentences, that's a big addition. I don't know if this means Tony Z is part of this, if Tony Z is still involved in this sort of situation. As many people have pointed out, Tony Z is kind of radio silent recently. But for clarification, that's how Tony Z is. That's who he is. From my experiences with people who've met him, say he's a very sociable guy in small groups, but doesn't like to talk in large groups unless he's presenting and stuff like that. So I don't know if this has to do with Quanta or not. My guess is it does, but who knows? Features Arena Commander. The Arena Commander feature team polished and supported Alpha 320 while beginning Stage 2 of the Arena Commander revitalization plan. Alongside patchwork, the engineering team supported a new top top heads-up display, which will feature in all game modes from Alpha 320. They also assisted in the ongoing investigation of the return of Theaters of War. You called me mad. All of you disbelieved me when I said that this was the year that Theaters of War would come in. I disbelieved me when I said it back in January. For those who'd say this day would never come, what do they say now? I don't know. It's not even out yet. It still won't come. This involved identifying the steps needed to update their new spawning module with several unique Theaters of War features, such as spawn locations and multi-crew, and bring them into other game modes. So that doesn't mean that Theaters of War is coming in 320 or in 321, but it does kind of point in the direction that, has been pretty obvious, is that Theaters of War isn't dead. It's just, it's dead, but it's going to come back as just part of Arena Commander rather than being its own mode. So. Work continued on the new custom lobbies feature, previously private matches, with several successful tests conducted. The team are currently focusing on finalizing the UI design and hooking up the various interactions. Engineering began restoring the spectator mode too, which will allow for players to spectate matches in custom lobbies and other modes. For example, spectating a player who has lost all their respawns in a PvE game mode. I think that's supposed to be like a player can be spectated if they lost all the respawn. Design enhanced several outlines for the upcoming updates and scouted locations from the PU and beyond for use in Arena Commander. They also began investigating the Theaters of War location Crossroads of Crime to help estimate restoration efforts. Very cool. The team also addressed a large collection of feedback from the Evocati and PTU regarding the front-end and game modes. The front-end game mode selection now shows which modes are new, which have rec multipliers, and which have achievements associated with them. Design also progressed with the spawn screen UI for in-game vehicle selection, which began internal testing. Finally, the team helped create several new game modes requested by other teams, including a 2v2 mode that will host a fight or flight at CitizenCon. Very cool. Features, characters, and weapons. August saw the characters and weapons feature team working on weapon poses. Currently, when a player approaches a collision surface, their equipped weapon is raised to avoid clipping through the geometry. It's interesting, I actually saw something fairly recently. I can't remember what I saw, but I saw a video that talked about this process where if you looked from a third-person perspective, if a player walks up to a wall, for most video games, the gun would clip through the wall. But if you look at it first person, it doesn't actually clip. And that was one of the issues that Star Citizen had very early on when they said unifying the third and first person animations, because everything that you see the player doing in third person has to be what the player's doing in first person, and it has to be like look good together, which was a pain in the butt. Which is, for those of you who are older backers, remember the chicken problem. They solved it by chicken stabilization, where they stabilize the camera the same way that chickens stabilize their heads, and use that method. So, as chat's saying, it resulted in head bob, which they had to solve the problem with chicken stabilization. The team explored alternatives where the weapon is lowered, moved to the bottom of the first-person view, and rotated towards the body so it lies diagonally across the abdomen. This is a more natural in certain situations, limits clipping, and ensures majority of the player's view is unobscured, particularly when interacting with screens in the environment. So instead of, when we're walking like this, instead of moving up and going like that, because it's going to block most of your view, now you're going to do this, or like that. Or it kind of comes to the side and brings you down. So, procedural recoil also progressed last month to ensure that the feel of each weapon can be tweaked to make it feel unique. A large number of curves were exposed to the content creators. Me? Morph? Bored? We were exposed to to weapon recoil. I don't know what they're talking about, but these curves allow multiple layers of subtle movements and rotation to be overlaid to create a wide range of interesting results. It's a bit of a manual process and requires significant attention to detail, but it can add a lot to the personality of a weapon. Features team. Probably Mike, he's within CIG payroll. Disco. Disco. That's pretty cool. I actually don't remember hearing about procedural recoil. Maybe I just missed it or glazed over it in the past. But that's again one of those Sauron tools where it's one tool that can be used for a bunch of different things, and so that makes sense to be able to iterate on guns pretty quickly and do different types of weapons to be able to have more procedural recoil. It to be added to the gun rather than having to do bespoke animations for each gun. Features, gameplay. Gameplay features continued on their ongoing work on the vehicle tractor beam feature, readying it for testing by the QA. They also progressed with the resource network mentioned in last month's report and supported the upcoming patch release. So that's pretty big for a small number. So I'm fairly certain that vehicle tractor beams are a 3.21 feature. They've been in some major state of completion for the last 3 months. The SRV has been done for a while now. It seems like it wasn't going to be able to make it for 320 because they wanted to release 320 before CitizenCon. So instead, it's going to be a 3.21 release. Be my guess. And this is the first mention of the resource network that we've seen in a while. So, which could be mentions of the resource system, which is a ongoing system that touches literally everything in the game. Everything from your suits to your ships to every building in the game all uses this new resource system, which will enable multi-crew gameplay, but it enables a lot of other stuff too. So possibly that, though it's hard to tell exactly what that means in terms of what's being worked on. Features, mission. The mission features team spent the month working through their upcoming deliverables and bug fixing for Alpha 320. Away from the upcoming patch, Siege of Orison received various improvements ahead of a future release, with the main focus being keeping players together. Development of Blockade Runner, which will replace Ninetales Lockdown, continued too, with various technical issues considered and planned for. Significant improvements were made to the existing destroyed drug stash missions to ensure mission-critical items are spawned when the player arrives. They also made great progress in modularizing the new player experience so it can be used in any landing zone with the current markup. That's something they've been working on for a while, is trying to make the new player experience work with any landing zone, so it makes it more modular and so it's not just an Area 18. And the Blockade Runner is the thing that they've been talking about since last month. They talked about removing the Ninetales Lockdown because they finally recognized it was the weakest of all of the events. As much as I know people hate Xenothreat now and hate Jumptown, they're still, in my mind, the best events that CIG's created. They just ran them ragged over the course of a patch cycle that was garbage, so a lot of people have negative experiences with it now. But I think this will give the most engaging experiences out of all of them. The fact that they're getting rid of the Ninetales and improving and replacing with the Blockade Runner and improving the Siege of Orison is good signs. It means that they're not just abandoning the event system, which is something that I've been worrying about for the last couple of months because it seemed like they were moving away from those systems, but maybe not. The steal evidence at Korea and retrieve consignment missions entered the polish phase, with reputation being hooked up. Work also began on ship restoration missions, which will require players to restore ships to a saleable condition. Data Heist passed another gate review and will enter internal playtesting to ensure the objectives are clear. So, steal evidence at Korea is kind of like a miniature version of the Korea heist stuff. I think you're supposed to go get a specific item to get rid of it. Retrieve consignment is one that people thought was cargo missions, but is just go to an area and find locations at a location, or like find stuff at a location. Shipwreck restoration missions, which was first brought up last month, is nuts. Like, I'm surprised we haven't seen more than that. It seems like it's plugging its way through. Data Heist is one of those, and another one of those interesting ones. An internal planning test to make sure it's clear. So, the ship cargo steal/recover hauling mission has taken as far as it can go until further cargo features are developed. In the meantime, we'll make a courier version in which small items are the objective. Mission feature team. I feel like that's Luke and Elliot kind of going, like straining at the bit. Like, we want more. We want to do more. Give us your cargo. Give us your cargo. The team progressed with reputation-based hostility, devising a mission that allows players to work for the Ninetales gang. Hey, nice. Some actual outlaw mission stuff. Once completed, they'll convert most of the nameless criminal missions into Ninetales until further gangs are added. We know that there's the Nova Riders, and then there's the Dusters, and the Ninetales. And I think there's right now there's generic shipjackers, but I think there'll be all of the gangs in Star Citizen, all of the hostile criminal aspects of Star Citizen it's Stanton at least, will be unique gang members, not just random stuff. So, code work was completed on the highlighting and filtering of mission critical items in the inventory. This was handed to the UI for their pass. Finally, tasks for ship trespass began. Tasks for ship trespass progressed, with nesting trespass being the main thing holding it back. Ship trespass is one of the kind of blanks on me. I don't think that's a mission thing, though. Could be. Features vehicle. Last month, the team assisted with bug fixing for stability for Alpha 320 and beyond, including getting the Misk Hull C ready for release and completing smaller feature work on upcoming ship releases. The designers then tuned how racing ships perform in atmosphere to bring them closer together and converted more ground vehicles to the new physics model, which allows for more realistic behavior than before. The mass of size 1, 2, and 3 items were rebalanced for better consistency across ship loadouts and to improve the tractor beam gameplay of removing and replacing items. Smaller vehicle and weapon balance tweaks were also made. Graphics, VFX programming, and planet tech. Did we skip engine? Is there no engine? I'm gonna go back up here. There's no engine. That feels weird. For those of you who don't know, we've had engine I've had a little spiel for engine for a very long time, and it's weird not seeing it. Anyways, it usually is before graphics, VFX programming, and planet tech, so. Okay, I'll do the spiel anyways. I am not an engine seer. I do not know the wills of the Omnisci. I am not a Starfleet engineer. I cannot turn rocks into replicators. I am but me. So any of these technical aspects, especially with the graphics, VFX programming, and planet tech, there tends to be some stuff there. I may not understand the jargon. You may, though, if you're an engineer or do work on these sorts of things for a living, or just a hobbyist. So please let me know in the comments below anything that I'm confused on, or your thoughts on that as well. So. In August, improvements were made to the internal implementation of temporal super resolution. Further progress was made on water, with the shader gaining improved lighting and foam. Work on the simulation continued too, with foam propagation and bullet impact support being added. They've been working a lot on water, in terms of like water effects and such, for a long time. The prototype of glint shading model was completed and comes in 3 versions with different performance characters. The team are now investigating whether they can take one of these into production. Distant lights are now drawn as tiny bright glows that pass through the existing post-effect system, with the aim of replacing the more traditional composite flare system that can't support post-effects. On the tooling side, the streaming debugger was expanded and now provides a powerful tool to track the detailed history of any asset or group, to diagnose issues and facilitate optimizations. The mesh setup editor was also expanded to allow fine-grained control over how animated meshes are imported. The Vulkan subteam added new extensions, including Synchronization 2, Maintenance 4, and Timeline Semaphore, to improve various aspects of the back end. Focus is now shifting on to unblocking progress on global illumination, as the ray tracing component is Vulkan only. The VFX programming team has implemented smoke spawning on Fire along with various other quality improvements to bring the feature to visually complete and rather impressive state. Finally, further improvements to lighting effects were made, which will be used in the future within gas clouds. Very cool. In-game branding. The in-game branding team continued to progress with the underground facility exteriors. They've also worked closely with EU Locations 2 on an upcoming event and progressed with some event-related add-ons, which is probably the IAE, Surface Access, the Commons, the Prominent. That's just all stuff from Microtech, from New Babbage. So I guess that's new. Those are new signs for New Babbage. Those look good. I like it. They're very good. Interactables. Last month saw the Interactables team create new assets for Pyro's rundown station alongside various flare items. That's probably not Ruin Station, though it could be. It's probably just the different rundown stations they have. Lighting. The lighting team continued to contribute to Pyro, working on tasks for the colonialism outposts and rundown station. They also worked on an upcoming event. That's probably just a mistranslation of Ruin Station. Live Tools. In August, the Live Tools team released a new version of the crash handling pipeline, which is now in the maintenance phase. For Hex's Network Operations Center, they worked on general navigation to improve the quality of life for its main users. This included redesigning elements of the discipline module and entity graph. Locations EU. The locations team progressed across various areas last month, including the rundown station, it's gotta be a mistranslation, like German or something, and colonialism outposts for Pyro. They also worked on signage and dioramas for an upcoming event. The Organics team continued to build Pyro's planets, including foliage, while the Sandbox team moved to the new underground facilities through Greybox. So this is the exterior of the underground facilities. It's not moving through Greybox, so that's good. We were talking about that earlier about it was mentioned last CitizenCon, and so it sounds like it's moving quite along there. So we might see some of these underground facilities probably until 4.0, but we'll see. Narrative. The narrative team continued to focus on Pyro, writing multiple missions and crafting strings to populate new locations with everything from signage to food items. In Stanton, several new mission types were worked on and improvements were made to existing content. Alongside the evergreen tasks of naming and describing various in-game items and wearables, Narrative worked with Interactables on interesting ideas for future editions. Trying to go back through that. Yeah. The Narrative design team worked on NPC behaviors for Pyro and continued to explore how to make NPC behaviors feel unique across various landing zones. On the website, several interesting pieces of lore were published, including an excerpt from Life Labor, The Secret History of First and Dynamics, Whitley's Guide to the Constellation Phoenix, and several new Galactopedia entries. The Narrative team will have a new installment of Loremakers Community Questions coming up soon. Woo! So don't hesitate to ask your questions in the team's dedicated Spectrum channel. I might, Lore Team, I might. It's a lot of stuff for Pyro, which makes sense, but to illuminate something that a lot of people don't realize, the lore team doesn't really get involved a lot in the game development, like the process development, except for the very beginning and the very end of the process. It's hard to tell which one is which, but I'm leaning towards the end of the process for a lot of these, though they are talking about like ideas for missions and other things like that. So it could be the the beginning of stuff. Either way, it means that they're moving towards more finalized ideas when it's coming to Pyro, not just this is a planet, but like this is where this settlement is. It's controlled by this group. That would be my guess based off of these sorts of mentions. So it's a good sign. It means that Pyro is still being worked on, but it's being more tuned in for some of these things. Online services. In August, the online service team worked towards finalizing the design and approach for upcoming several legacy backend social services to gRPC. As quality of life update, the team added new social menus with players now able to enable or disable friend requests and friend request notifications. Yes. And choose who they receive party invite notifications and currency transfers from. Yes. Updates were also made to the discipline service, which is necessary for future anti-cheat enforcement and sanction updates. Those are all really good quality of life stuff. So, R&D. In August, work on the temporal renderer mode for atmosphere and volumetric clouds continued. Various methods to rectify or reject frame history were experimented with. Furthermore, new disocclusion detection system to reject history was implemented that in Spirit is similar to the general upsampling solution. I'll try it again. Furthermore, a new disocclusion detection system to reject history was implemented that in Spirit is similar to the general upsampling solution. Whew, that's a lot of jargon. Additionally, various code was updated to work with the recent Gen 12 improvements. UI. As part of the development of Pyro, the UI team created fluff screens and converted Flash animations into fluff screens. They also supported mission features on Data Heist by uplifting the screen style. And lastly, VFX. Last month, the VFX team continued their work on various Pyro locations, including some with animated machinery. So, this was a very light monthly report. A lot of stuff on Pyro, stuff they're continuing to work on with Ruin Station and other stuff like that. But the online services stuff is very nice. The being able to decide who can send you information and such. Let me go through some of this. The UGFs are in gray box. New foliage for Pyro, colonialism outposts, being worked on stuff. New interactables for Pyro. In-game branding team is working on the underground facility exteriors, and they're also working on some stuff for IAE. Smoke and fire, flare systems, whole sea stuff, new ground vehicle stuff, balancing for sizes for item sizes, lots of mission stuff, redoing Siege of Orison, Blockade Runner missions, which will probably end up being the thumbnail for this. Destroyed updates for the drug stash, steal evidence at Korea, receive consignment, ship restoration missions, so repair missions. That also may be on my on the thumbnail. And courier versions of this. There's just a ton of mission content stuff that they talked about. Tractor beams being tested, resource networks being worked on. We've got weapon poses, new ways of weapon poses, procedural recoil, lots of PU of arena commander stuff, including a lot of mentions of theaters of war and getting that towards that state. The new economy addition, cool stuff with the community stuff. Ships, we've got Sentok Yai, we've got a new ship that's going through White Box, two new variants of an existing ship were done. The Origin X1's through White Box, the Tumbril Storm is done, Headhunters Gang stuff was done, new flight suits, new animation, and a bunch of AI tech for how they kind of move in between different zones, like being able to jump out of a ship onto the ground and still move. Lots of AI features as well, with just bug fixing to make them look better and kind of function the way they're supposed to. So overall, a fairly light on most stuff, but pretty heavy on the mission stuff, gameplay stuff, and a little bit of the ships, some new ships stuff. So probably not the last light, not the last monthly report. It's going to be a little light in content, since a lot of that stuff is going to be saved for CitizenCon. But I want to know, as always, what you think in the comments below. And I want to thank you for watching. Join us live, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPub live to watch this and join the chat here. And like I say all the time, hope to see you someday in the black.